In today's riff lesson, we're going to be going over Black Crow on a Tombstone by Satyricon. The tabs were made by Afra. A link to his channel is in the description. Here we go. First thing you need is a guitar in D standard, and here's the first part. So it's a very, very quick little riff of palm mutes. So you've got 4 picks on the power chord, 0 and 2 on E and A strings. Then 3 picks. And then we play this dyad shape here, 8 and 6 on E and A. Again, it's palm muted with 4 picks. The important part is the muting. Just making sure the guitar is completely silent before the chord changes. Then we've got 2 rounds of 4 palm mute picks on the low E power chord. And the last part is 4 and 6 on E and A, 4 picks with palm mutes. So that's the whole intro. Then we get the main riff. So you play the low E, and then you need to mute it when you do the hammer on and the pull off. So it's going to be 9, 10, 9 on the D string. So I'm doing the muting with my thumb. So when I fret the D string, my thumb is touching the low E. Then you got 7, 8, 7, hammer on pull off on the A string, and it's 11, 12, 11 on the low E. So here's the whole first part. And then it's... So those trills are on the 7th and 8th fret and the 10th and 11th fret on the low E. And here's the riff. So go back into riff 1, and as you see, in the first section of the riff, it's 4 picks for every chord. And the second loop is how it started off with 4, 3, 4 in the picking. 4 picks and 3 picks and 4 picks. Then it's back into riff 2. And then we get into riff 3, and it's a little bit awkward when you play it. So you pick the low E, and then you hammer on the 12th and 13th fret. And then you flick off with your middle finger to the open string. Do that a few times, and then you pick the power chord there, 6 and 8 on E and A. So the part at the beginning, that bit there, you want to pick once and just let your left hand do the work. So in the first measure of the riff, you play the power chord, 6 and 8 on E and A, and then when you repeat it, it's 11 and 13. And then the riff keeps looping, and then sometimes you get this ending. So there. So it follows that same pattern, except we're going to go hammer on 12, 13, and then play the power chord on 12 and 14 on the E and A strings. Dun, 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 with the power chord. And then here's the next riff. So you're going to be picking the 12 and 14 power chord, and then do 3 picks on the lower power chord. So it's the same D power chord here, and then a lower D power chord. And then you go to the 7th and 9th fret on E and A, 3 picks. And then it's another 3 picks on the 8th and 10th fret on E and A. And then you play the minor chord. And then you play the minor chord for 5 picks. And then that's how you get the first loop. And then you get this transition, and then you get this transition. So it starts off the same way. Then you get these octave chords. It's 7th and 9th fret, 8 and 10 on E and D, then 2 and 4, then slide up to the 7th fret. So that's the ending. and then the riffs just repeat. Then you go back to the chorus, and then there's a different transition ending, and it goes like this. So it's the same kind of start. And then here's the octave chords now. You've got 7 and 9 on E and D. Move it up a fret to 8 and 10. 10 and 12. And then finish on 13, 15. So the finish. And now we have the breakdown. So let's just go through this 2 bars at a time. So we have the low power chord, open and 2 on E and A. 2 strums, then 3 strums. And then you go to this inverted power chord, 8 and 8 on E and A. 2 picks. And then the 7th fret of A. Then the beginning is the same, 2 picks, break, then the 3 picks. Then you have these power chords. So it's chromatic, 4, 5, 6, 4, 6, 5, 7, 6, 8. 2 picks on the first chord, then 1 pick on the other ones. And then the first part loops around. And the ending changes. So it's going to be 6, 7, and 8. 3 power chords. So it continues on. The starting is the same. Except we've got 2 different endings now. So you've got trills on 12 and 13 on the low E. And then you finish on the 6 and 8 power chords on E and A. And then on the second repeat, we finish on the same power chord, except the trill is different on the first and second frets. So that just loops around, and then you go back to the main riff. And then the verse sections repeat again, and then the chorus repeats again. And then you've got this third transition here, so when you finish off this chorus, you play this octave chord here, 1 and 3 on E and D. And then all of the sections that we've done before just repeat, and then you've got the ending. And then riff 1 comes in with 4 picks for each chord. And then riff 1 comes back in again with a little bit of a difference. So instead of cutting short the second round of 4 picks, you're going to let it sustain. Instead of muting like that, you're going to let the chord and the palm mute just sustain for a bit longer in the second group of 4 picks. So in the final 2 bars of the song, you're going to finish on 4 picks on this power chord here, 1 and 3 on E and A. So that's the whole of Black Crow on a Tombstone. It's a little bit tricky trying to remember all the sections, but all the parts are fairly simple.